yeah, mama, what you done? Made me love you, now your man done come. Got a 38 gun, feeling bomb, 38 gun, feeling bomb. Why can't nobody use it?
At the end of the Red Dog's first summer, the intense energy and excitement of the new psychedelic experience exploded outward from Virginia City. Many of the new rock scene pioneers headed back to San Francisco, bringing the conviction that this new lifestyle of free expression could take root in the city and grow wildly. A sense of community was central to the Red Dog experience, so it's no surprise that a group calling itself the Family Dog was formed by Ellen Harmon, Alton Kelly, and Luria. They wanted to try something new in San Francisco, even though it was illegal. What they wanted to do was dance.
You know, Luria and myself and Ellen and Jack, and the other people too, like the Charlatans and everybody who was involved, when we came back, we had to do something. We wanted to make it happen because we had such a good time at the Red Dog.
Michael Ferguson was a real good friend of mine, and I knew George. And Jack and Kelly and I were looking for a business to be in.
The Beatles were popular, Rolling Stones were popular, rock and roll was happening. It was our music, our generation.
We just saw that there was potential money to be made in theory, on this sort of new kind of rock and roll that just seemed a little bit different from everything else down in San Francisco.
And also there was the issue of the Charlatans, which I was really into, and I wanted a platform for them.
We pooled our money, decided we would throw some rock and roll dances. We went searching through the city, trying to find a hall.
And my particular function in the scene was to run my mouth. Ellen.
She still does.
Ellen was
function.
the dragon lady who answered the phone and kept everything together.
And we knew the bands. I mean, the Charlatans were there. The Jefferson Airplane was starting. The Great Society. We went around, found other bands in the East Bay.
And it was my inglorious function to sort of talk to all these people who we were dependent on to get, you know, notoriety and PR and stuff, into the fact that there could be a rock and roll scene in San Francisco.
Ralph J. Gleason, music enthusiast and jazz critic for the San Francisco Chronicle, recalled his first meeting with the Family Dog. So they showed up one afternoon in October 1965, a trio of what we now know as hippies. Luria became very animated as she spoke, and her cheeks flushed with the intensity of her vision. They've got to give people a place to dance. For this first psychedelic rock and roll dance, the biggest problem was finding a place to hold the event.
And we ended up at Longshoremen's Hall, and that was the very first dance in the city. It was October 16th in '65. About 400 or 500 people showed, which isn't real good or anything, but we made a little bit of money and stuff. But I think that night was such a revelation. We were stunned by the fact that it was full of people with long hair who were freaks, who we'd never seen before, and there was hundreds of them.
It was an interesting time to be in San Francisco and to be in school then, you know, because a lot of things were happening. A lot of people were getting into LSD and various psychedelics. A lot of people were smoking pot. The mime troupe was starting to do things. Kesey would come through town already with his bus. And everybody had a kind of a feeling that there was something going to happen.
I think the audience felt the same way. Everybody was kind of walking around with their mouths open, you know, going, where did these freaks come from? I thought me and my friends were the only guys around.
when the Fox Theater quit business, they had to go out of business, and these 2 costume stores went out of business, and they sold all this stuff. Suddenly you could get all this beautiful velvet and brocade out of the Fox for real cheap. And so people began to appear in costume in public places a lot.
It was like a real breakaway from the down beatnik scene. And it really did grow like crazy immediately once that first dance happened. Because everybody started to realize it was okay. And then their friends did it, and their friends did it, and their friends did it. And their mom couldn't say, "Get your hair cut." It was like, "Sorry, Mom, no way."
The Family Dog produced a total of 3 rock and roll dances in the fall of 1965, their popularity growing with each new event.
And I remember standing with Luria one night in the California Hall, and we looked out at the people standing outside the door, and they were average American college kids with short hair, drinking beers, and they wanted in. They saw something inside that they wanted to be part of, and we thought, well, why not? Let's open the doors, you know. So we did, and there started the whole rock and roll hippie movement, you know.
Had the Red Dog not happened, I don't know what would have happened. We wouldn't have had that idea. We wouldn't have thrown the dances. There wouldn't have been that scene. Maybe the bands would have come back and they would have played at the Matrix here and there, but they were all little jazz clubs and things, and there was no dance hall. And we wanted to throw a dance. I mean, and in the beginning, they were dances.
Dancing seemed like it was the new thing at that time. And it was for about 2 years. After the Red Dog Saloon, dancing was still the dominant single factor that brought everything together. The music, the people, the audience, the performers, all of us who worked in the dance halls doing one or another thing.
Everybody danced. I mean, everybody. The only people sitting down were the people leaning up against the walls, tired. They were on the floor sitting, sweating. You know, I mean, everybody really danced their butts off.
As Ralph Gleason saw it, some of the people danced all night long as if the mere opportunity for such expression was God-given and might never be repeated. Long lines of dancers snaked through the crowds for hours, holding hands. It was orgiastic and spontaneous and completely free-form. The most remarkable assemblage of humanity was leaping, jumping, dancing, frigging, fragging, and fruging on the dance floor to the music of the half-dozen rock bands. These promoters were unlike any I had ever seen in a decade of covering public music events. They never had any idea of what the economic situation was.
And I actually made money one night. I mean, it was like George Hunter was immediately there like a vulture saying, "You have to come over and we have to decide what we're going to do with this money, and we have to buy something to smoke right away." Anyway, it was really cute. It was really cute. He kept me up all night long talking about what to do with this like little pittance of money that we actually made, but we had it was fun. Anyway.
It was fun, a lot of fun, and a lot of people joined in. The Family Dog expanded into a large organization that continued to promote dances. The former manager of Big Brother and the Holding Company also became part of the Family Dog and soon became the main driving force behind it. Chet Helms promoted dances at the legendary Avalon Ballroom. The family dog was now a chaotic community of rock and roll zealots, visionary entrepreneurs, and social freethinkers. They had a unique vision of life and how to make money. Across town, Bill Graham, the business manager of the San Francisco Mime Troupe, began promoting dances at the Fillmore Auditorium. His charismatic blend of business sense and personal drive provided a powerful economic base for the rock scene. The ballroom scene flourished in San Francisco because urban renewal had not yet taken hold. The city was full of old 19th century buildings, the sort that couldn't be built today for any kind of money. There were still problems with dancing at rock concerts. The Straight Theater got around the no dancing ordinance by calling their shows dance classes. Graham and Helms also made use of available local talent. Bands like the Grateful Dead, Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service, and Big Brother and the Holding Company, who were about to add a fifth member, Janis Joplin. Bill Ham, creator of the Red Dogs' original light show, splashed his new creation, moving liquid light projection, on the walls of the dance halls. With fellow artists Glenn McKay, Jerry Abrams, and Ben Van Meter, used film and lights to create visual accompaniment that became synonymous with the ballroom experience. The ballroom scene created endless opportunities for creative expression among dancers, light show artists, and poster artists.
We had no reason to think, that a poster was any significant thing or something to do but it just seemed that if you were going to be playing somewhere, you ought to have a poster or something to tell about it.
They call the Red Dog poster the seed, the poster of the Charlatans playing.
Michael and I kicked around some ideas for the poster, and he had a poster which was for the great Karmi troupe in India, which was a group of jugglers and acrobats and fire eaters and all that stuff. As a matter of fact, on that very poster, there was a little quotation that said, "The amazing Karmi troupe," and the limit of the marvelous. And so we took those elements, and along with the graphic elements, and Michael essentially did all the drawing on the poster, and I'd be putting my 2 cents in here and there and doing little embellishments and so forth, and so that's how the poster came about.
And that poster was the seed. It started everything for everybody. It was really an important piece. in the very beginning with Wes, Victor, myself, Stanley, Rick, the five of us, there was a funny kind of competition. Everybody knew each other. And we would go out and look on the street for Wes's work, and look for Victor's work, and look for Rick's work, and try and say, oh my God, look what he's done. You know, and it was so great because you'd go, God, we have to go back now and really do something good. Look at how good Wes's thing is. I mean, Wes's thing is spectacular. I mean, it's beautiful. And you'd have to go back and really do it. And we'd go to the libraries and go through the stacks looking for some kind of image or some kind of art form to go from. And we're probably the first dance posters since the Moulin Rouge or something. I'm not sure, you know. Because Stanley and I worked together, and we, as the scene grew and things, all the poster artists came to know each other. Eventually it worked out, because Stanley and I worked together, that I would do a poster with Rick, and Rick would do one with Victor, and Victor would work with one with Wes, and Wes would work with Stanley, and I mean, it was great. I mean, it was a different kind of competition. I mean, it was like everybody liked everybody's work, and everybody liked everybody else too. And it made it possible for artists to collaborate. I feel like, I don't know, Toulouse-Lautrec or something, doing them for the Moulin Rouge. It was a real event, a real thing. They were dances. Nobody knew who the Grateful Dead were. Nobody knew the Jefferson Airplane. Nobody knew the Charlatans. Nobody knew anybody. We put the posters on the street, and they were effective.
Psychedelic rock and roll revolution that started in an old Victorian neighborhood in San Francisco and a saloon in Virginia City, Nevada, was about to become known around the world.
But the real true spirit of what the music was about, and that scene, and all of us being young, it was like real sweet time. It was a real sweet time. And I'm not saying that never happens again, because maybe for the people now, they have their places like that too. But for us, those were like the places, like the Red Dog, and some of the early times at the Matrix, where it was like this kind of. It was still a time of innocence. It was before, the commercialization, before anybody became a star, before anybody had any awareness of the whole thing was going to become so big and so saleable, and people were going to get into their own self-importance. It was just like everybody was equal. Like there were no stars. They were like, we were all just sort of part of this thing, and it was a wonderful time in that sense. I think that died out. I think actually that spirit kind of almost was gone by even in 1967. A year later, it was almost gone.
The feeling that some people had at trying to jump on the bandwagon, and to me the best example of that would be all the kids that came out during the Summer of Love from Akron, Ohio, from Jacksonville, Florida, from New York City, who all they knew about the scene was what they read in their own newspapers. And their home newspapers were giving them a pile of crap because they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know the spirit like David was talking about. They had only known and reported about the outside cover of the book.
Yeah. I could give you my cosmic answer to that question, and I could give you my practical answer to the question. My practical answer to the question is sort of like Peter is saying. It's sort of like at that time in the 60s was the beginning of where the media actually started to have the power to actually influence the things that it was reporting on. And this was one of the first cases, like the way the media descended on the psychedelic scene in the Bay Area and in some way created it into something else than it was. My cosmic answer to the question would be like to say that, like every movement has like, it's like sort of it's medieval, it's classical, and it's Baroque, and it's medieval is like that time of innocence. And whatever it is, like it's sort of like nature just changes things, they have to kind of go on. And then the classical thing started to happen like in the 67, 68, and then by 69, it was totally Baroque. Because everybody was so self-conscious of the style in and of itself that it started to copy itself and disintegrate. The spirit of it really was not true anymore.